Today we're going to discuss Brendan Rodgers and his future at Celtic, as a lot of noise around the club has been that it looks like he will leave. Well, we have an update on this. Not only that, we will also go over all the latest Celtic news from the last 24 hours. But first, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Celtic have finally confirmed their Europa League package prices for season ticket holders, a move that comes at a time of serious unrest among the support following the summer's transfer fallout. Despite the off-field turbulence, the champions of Scotland are set for another European adventure, with the new UEFA Europa League phase guaranteeing 8 matches, 4 of them under the lights at Celtic Park. The boys will host Braga, Sturm Graz, Roma and Utrecht in Glasgow, fixtures that promise high drama and big atmospheres. The away ties take Celtic to Serbia, Denmark, the Netherlands and Italy, ensuring a varied and demanding schedule across the continent. The club has set the 4-match Celtic Park package at adults £140, £35 per match, concessions £112, £28 per match, under 13 £100, £25 per match, which seems like a reasonable price for the 4 ties. Rangers, Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest all are charging their season ticket holders more. However, it is a rise since the last time we were in the competition, when it worked out at £24 per game for the 3-match package. The adults came in at £72 for Ange Postecoglou's first tilt at Europe for the Hoops. For many supporters, European nights at Paradise remain the pinnacle of the Celtic experience, even in the Europa League. Yet it remains to be seen how many fans will use this Europa League campaign to make a stance against the board by choosing not to attend. A key meeting has already been called for Wednesday night, bringing together prominent supporters groups and fan media outlets like ourselves, with the aim of plotting a way forward and demanding real answers and action from those currently running the club. Since the transfer window and deadline day debacle, it is thought some fans have taken themselves off the HCTS, so they're not automatically charged for the games. After the tone-deaf and patronising statement on Saturday night, we can only surmise even more fans are thinking twice. Now for the main story, as Brendan Rodgers' demands were not met in Celtic's summer transfer window. A frustrating few months saw the likes of Jacob Broom, Louis Munteanu and most recently Kasper Dolberg not brought to the club despite reported interest. The side's lack of attacking reinforcements, along with the high-profile departure of Nicholas Kuhn to Como, as well as Adam Ida's move to Swansea, have left Rodgers' squad appearing weaker. The arrival of Kelechi Iheanacho was necessary after the transfer deadline passed, without the arrival of a high-profile striker. Rodgers is yet to speak publicly since the window closed, but for one club insider, his relationship with the club appears to be in a bad way. Brendan Rodgers will not resign despite bad relationships, says Stephen McGowan. Rumours about Rodgers' future continue to swirl in terms of his contract, but also his immediate steps. Speaking on the Press Box podcast, McGowan said, "There's 3 million reasons why he won't resign. We know how football works. Managers, if they want to go, want their contract paid up. And the very last club who want to pay Brendan Rodgers £2.5 million to go away are Celtic. They barely pay £2.5 million for a centre-forward, so why would they pay it to a manager who's not honouring his contract? I think it's a bit of a standoff now. It looks like the relationship is in a very bad way from the outside, and it's a case of who blinks first. Until a solution is found to Rodgers' contract situation, the discourse will continue one way or another." In other news, Celtic returned to action on Sunday against Kilmarnock for a match that could be one of the last on their plastic pitch after the side's announcement this week. Kilmarnock had originally planned to switch back to grass for this season, but delayed the move. The Ayrshire club will now make the change next summer, when new SPFL rules banning artificial surfaces in the Premiership come into effect for 2026/27. Speaking last year, Rodgers said he was firmly behind the decision to phase them out. He said, "This constant conversation, every coach would want to play, I'm pretty sure, on a grass pitch. I understand the economics, but there should be a certain level. Every team in the top flight should have a grass pitch." Kilmarnock have already confirmed their plans to return to grass next season, inviting supporters to pitch in by purchasing a virtual plot towards the new playing surface. At present, 3 Premiership clubs, Kilmarnock, Livingston and Falkirk, still use synthetic pitches. Falkirk were granted a one-off period of grace to continue with their current surface for an additional year, while Livingston installed a new artificial pitch over the summer, but have no immediate plans to switch to grass. Rodgers is far from alone in his stance, with many managers across the league critical of plastic surfaces and the impact they can have on both the standard of football and player welfare. Sunday's clash with Stuart Kettlewell's side is set to be one of the last times Celtic visit Rugby Park on an artificial pitch. In other news, Brendan Rodgers is under fire from all sides at the moment from fans and the club, but while most criticism has been aimed at the Celtic board for a disastrous summer window, Simon Jordan insists the manager cannot be let off the hook. The TalkSport pundit pointed to Celtic's Champions League exit at the hands of Kairat Almaty, where Rodgers' side failed to score across 210 minutes of football before losing on penalties. Jordan argued that results like that sit firmly on the manager as well as the board. He said, "So what we're saying is you need better players to overcome these minnows. Pack it in. Rodgers shouldn't get a pass for this. He shouldn't get a pass for this. Surely Brendan Rodgers should be cupping as much flack as the board are for the fact that this team, if people are getting really annoyed with the fact they didn't get through the Champions League qualifiers, then they should be looking at their bloody manager. I'm not blaming the media for the result. I'm blaming Brendan Rodgers and the players on the field for the result and perhaps the ownership model, but I'm not. I'm not allowing the bloody players and the manager to slide up underneath their responsibilities of being perfectly good enough to have overcome those minnows and maybe muted some of this outrage, or maybe not." Rodgers has become the focal point of Celtic's growing turmoil, with a poor transfer window, boardroom divisions, and a looming vote of no confidence all weighing heavily on the club. Fans from CSCs and various supporters groups are meeting to discuss their next steps following the publication of an open letter, and many are still adding their names. While the board is rightly being scrutinised, Celtic's exit to Kairat is also a failure that the manager must own. He's probably got off lightly from the fans, thanks to all the anger and frustration being directed at the board. Lastly, 2 Celtic players were selected for Republic of Ireland duty this month for their World Cup qualifiers against Hungary and Armenia. Liam Scales continued his usual trips to Ireland, while there was a first call for Celtic's backup striker Johnny Kenny, but it was a journey to forget for all. Ireland's rescue job against Hungary over the weekend was a positive point, with former boy Adam Idah coming off the bench and netting a stoppage time equaliser, but Ireland's hopes of qualifying for the 2026 World Cup took a major blow on Tuesday as Heimir Hallgrimsson's side suffered a shock defeat to lowly Armenia, with Scales coming off the bench and Kenny not being used again. Liam Scales' substitution for Ireland against Armenia. With less than 10 minutes left on the clock, Hallgrimsson didn't turn to his bench to bring on Kenny because Ireland were heading towards suffering an embarrassing defeat. Instead, he brought on Celtic centre-back Scales, and it's a call that the Ireland supporters simply couldn't understand and criticised. What do you think of what we discussed in today's video? Let us know down in the comment section below. Make sure you've liked this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.